Nick Waters, who is the CEO and founder of Hopster, is going to talk about building sticky products. I presume that means, Nick, products that maybe haven't been dropped in a vat of jam or something. It's not that kind of sticky product, right?
Both, often both.
Okay,
often
so
both.
Case study for little fingers. Please put your hands together. Give a warm welcome to Nick Waters.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
It was all yours.
Great. Cool. Thank you, guys. Good afternoon. So, yeah, as we said, I'm going to talk a little bit about building products which are both metaphorically and probably often literally sticky, because what we do is we build mobile products for preschool kids. So just in the service of other bad-teethed English people, I'm just going to put a couple of words of introduction. So I run this company called Hopster. We're a platform that sets out to help kids learn through the stories they love. So basically, we're a play and learning platform. We bring together video, books, games, and music in a single app for tablet, mobile phone, and connected TV. We launched in the UK. That's kind of our home market, but we're now pretty global. We're in about 100 territories around the world. A couple of million downloads since we launched, and at one time or another, we have been a top 10 grossing app here for kids in about 56 of those territories. So as I go through and talk about what we do, you should kind of have this in mind. So we were one of the first kids video apps to launch, certainly in the UK, in our home market. So we launched right at the end of 2013, and kind of feels strange to say it now, but when we first launched, we were like one of the only places you could get high quality, safe video for your kid in the App Store. So we launched, and it went pretty well. So within 10 months of launching, we were like the #1 grossing app for kids in the UK App Store. So we're like, okay, cool, there's kind of a demand for this. There feels like this idea of kids turning off linear TV and moving over into consuming like video content and other stuff on devices that were personal to them was something that had legs. And we're like, okay, this is, we are onto something, and this transition is like a real transition. But although we were one of the first places that you could get high quality premium video for your kid in the App Store, it did not take long for other people to notice. So over the following years, we had really quite a lot of other people come into this space. So most of those are UK examples. Some of them are also from the US. It did not take long for other industry participants to realize that the idea that kids would want to be entertained on mobile devices, on screens personal to them, in the App Store, as opposed to being on the TV, was going to be like a hot area. And very quickly, our challenge as a startup, we were 10, 20 people in a small office in London, was to survive and thrive in a world where there were these big 800-pound gorillas, where you had people like Netflix launching in the UK, you had Amazon Prime getting seriously into kids, you had players like Sky, the big UK telco, or pay TV operator, really getting big into the kids space. So suddenly, as a product that didn't have multi-billion-pound budgets behind us, that wasn't, was brand new product called Hopster, how are we going to sort of survive and build a compelling user base in a world that was suddenly full of all these big players? So from the start, we were like very focused on, we were very focused at the top of the funnel. Everyone went out and read the Lean Startup, and growth hacking sounded kind of cool, and we got very focused on our conversion rates and very focused on doing A/B tests, not very expertly, but around the top end of the funnel, and putting money into the channels that worked for us for user acquisition. So we were spending money on, and continue to spend money on, Facebook and social user acquisition platforms, various other sort of performance marketing channels. And we did indeed find that we were able to quite quickly drive new subscriptions and drive thousands of new people to take up the platform every month. It was great. So we kind of felt like we were doing well here. But as we started doing this, and particularly as we got into sort of 2015, 2016, we quickly spotted another problem. So as a kids service, we create this great service for young kids who are sort of 2, 3 years old, and we create this great service for kind of cute kids who pick up Hopster and want to be, and their parents who want to be entertained and occupied and enriched by the service we provide. There is a challenge, though, that we have as a kids service that a Netflix doesn't. And that's like, that young kid grows up pretty quickly. You're like, it's a fairly short space away from, hey, I really like Thomas the Tank Engine, to like, I'm going to skive off and get some cigarettes. And just to kind of bring that to life, one way to think about this is if you're like any generalist consumer subscription service, like a Netflix or a Spotify or an Amazon Prime, let's say your theoretical maximum lifetime value of a user is 50 years, from like 20 through to 70. And for us, as a service that's focused on kids aged 2 to 6, it's like 4 years, right? That's our theoretical maximum lifetime value of user, because like after that, they are just going to be too old, and they'll be often doing other things. And so already we're playing in like a 10% of the total possible lifetime value of a service like Netflix. And then like you think about, well, what's the consequence for Netflix of like acquiring a user a year or two late? Well, if you're Netflix and you have a 50-year maximum lifetime value, and you acquire a user a couple of years late, well, you've lost maybe 4% of your theoretical maximum lifetime value. We acquire a user 2 years too late, when they're like 4, and we've lost half our potential lifetime value. So it really quickly became clear that this issue of like holding a user for like a solid lifetime was going to be like an existential issue for us as a kids product. Because there's no, we were good at user acquisition, we were good at pushing people through our funnel, but there's no and there are some reasons why you could argue our cost of customer acquisition would be lower than like a Netflix. Like our price point is a bit lower. The kids market like refreshes itself quite quickly. It's quite viral, so parents do talk. So there are like some reasons why we might have a lower cost of acquisition than some of our like competitors for grown-ups. But it clearly wasn't going to be like 10 times lower. We were going to be like 10, 20%, 25% cheaper to acquire a user maybe. But if we didn't get a handle on driving lifetime value in this quite challenging space, we were going to have like a real problem. So what I want to do for like the rest of the presentation is really talk about like how we thought about that problem, what we did to try and address it, and kind of the results we got. So we had this kind of moment when we suddenly realized that as we were acquiring users, if we didn't push out our lifetime value, if we weren't retaining users, then we would be, we'd have a problem. So what did we do about it? Well, like the first thing we thought was going to be really important, given that we were in this world of kind of 800-pound gorillas, was to really know our audience. If we were like a small, super focused player, we needed to own being super focused, and we need to make sure we were super focused. So the start of that was like, well, who is our audience? And I think one of the like tropes you hear quite a lot is like millennial mums, right? Like 90% of kids born in the US now are born to millennial mums, born to someone who was born after 1982. And there's this idea kind of floating around that like, well, millennials, they all have consistent sets of behaviors. They're all late for work all the time and like don't want to want to sleep in, and like there's this kind of this really significant group of like common behaviors within the millennial audience. And we thought that was like sort of obviously like untrue, right? It's obviously not the case that just by virtue of being born after 1982 or after, everyone thinks the same way about parenting, that everyone thinks the same way about technology. So we thought, yes, it is true that very broadly speaking, if you are a millennial, you are probably more likely to be interested in technology. You may be more open to trying kind of disruptive brands. But that was really like the start of the insight rather than the end of the insight. So we wanted to go a lot deeper in like targeting and focusing our audience. So what we do is we target like a very clear segment within that. So we break up the parental audience into like 3 groups. We call one group like childhood as relationships. That's all about where the family really cares about the relationships within the family, the interactions within the family. One group we call traditional parents, childhood like my own. And one group, which is the group we focus on, we call childhood as an investment or progressive parents. And those are parents who tend to agree with statements like it's worth paying for premium content, tend to agree that it's bad for the kids to be exposed to advertising, tend to agree that gender neutrality is important, tend to agree they want to raise their kids in an ethically and socially conscious way, tend to agree that it's very important that digital products have an educational value. It's a very clear segment. It popped out very obviously when we went out and did our market segmentation. And we were like, OK, that's the group we're going to go after. It's that that's the audience we need to know, and that's the audience we need to kind of go crazy about satisfying. And that was like the first step for us, really, in thinking about, okay, well, how do we go about driving lifetime value, is knowing who we were trying to drive lifetime value for. So first of all, so the next thing we want to do is say, okay, it's very important we have a clear mission. So when we go out and talk to that group, like, why do we exist? Why should they be picking up Hopster versus Netflix or YouTube Kids or Amazon Prime? And we said, well, what we want to do is we want to help kids learn through the stories they love. You know, we want to bring together loads of great content. We're going to find great content from all the way around the world, but we want to make sure that we have that the reason to do that is to help kids learn through the stories they love. So unlike a Netflix, unlike a service which maybe has a more entertainment brief, we want to be a very clear idea that we are all about learning through play and learning through the stories we bring to kids. And then having established that mission, it was like really important that we lived that as a product. You know, and this is, you know, I think there are many tactical things that went into how we increase lifetime value, how we sought to, like, you know, build a stickier product. But there are some big things that you can't duck. And one of the things we thought we can't duck is if our mission is going to be building a product that helps kids learn through the stories they love for progressive parents, we need to, like, embody that in our product. So we're very focused on learning. We have a proprietary curriculum that sits underneath the platform. We work with educational psychologists to look at every piece of content that goes on the platform to make sure we can justify why it's on the platform. We're very big on making sure that the content we pick embodies values that we care about and that we know our users care about. That's things like gender neutrality. That's things like diversity. The show up on the left-hand side here is kind of like the apocryphal or the acme of like a Hopster show. So this great, cool, really cool show called Punky, and the protagonist has got Down syndrome. But they deal with it in a way that's really has a real lightness of touch. It's really funny. It's really well scripted. Doesn't take over the show, doesn't feel preachy, but it's also a really great way to introduce kids to the idea that they need to celebrate sort of differences and similarities. And we also wanted Hopster to be really relatable. We didn't want to be, that was important. We didn't want it to be preachy. We wanted to embrace real parenting. We wanted to be able to have fun. And those kind of brand values sort of lived in all the content we chose and all the product and feature decisions that we made. And that was not just about the content we acquired. When we build games, for example, we built games not just about sort of literacy and numeracy, which is often what you see in preschool education. We built games about sharing. We built sensory experiences for kids on the autistic spectrum. We have a new game coming out shortly about coding for preschool kids. So we really wanted to make sure that our product features delivered on and supported this mission as well. And like, the flip side of saying, hey, we're going to really know our audience, we're going to really focus on an audience, is also like, that focus is useless if it doesn't help you know who you're not for as well. And I think that's sometimes often lost. Like, people sometimes like are resistant to making the hard choices within your user group, and they kind of want it, when people say who they focus on, they say things like, we want to focus on millennial parents. They want to have these big, completely inclusive statements that don't really they don't lead you to make hard choices. So one of the things that we kind of had to accept is, like, if we're going to be focused on this childhood as an investment section, we may not be for everyone. So this is an example of one of our Twitter promoted tweets we run, still using YouTube. There's a better and safer alternative. One of the great things about Twitter is you get great feedback from, like, the public square. So this is a good example. So, like, Owen Hannon, like, stop playing on parents' fears of YouTube not being safe. I've never heard anything more brain dead. Like, you know, there is a segment for whom YouTube Kids is fine. They're not worried about the advertising. They're not worried about being an open platform. Like, our messages don't resonate with them, and, like, that's okay. That's okay. So we weren't for Owen Hannon. We also, Dr. Nancy also said it was very important to vet the children's apps and make sure that we didn't vote for the party of abortion and child trafficking. That feels more US specific, but I sense we probably did not retain her for that long either. So long, obviously, as you are for someone, right? Like, I mean, and this is a great example of, like, someone responding who did really like Hopster. Like, oh, okay, my kids has a great time. My kids enjoying some educational, like, downtime and screen time, while I get some downtime and some peace for myself. So we see very clearly when we go out and interact with users where we get good response and where we get where we're connecting and where we're not. So that was one piece. Another piece of product functionality that was really important to us was making our service feel alive. And I think this is really important for a subscription service. I think one of the things you're seeing in the App Store, and particularly the kids' App Store, is this long-term kind of secular shift towards subscription as a business model. And I think what a lot of people sometimes miss in subscription as a business model is it's really important, we found, to make your service feel alive, and for parents and for your users to know that the service is alive, to know that it's being regularly refreshed, regularly updated, and to always have a reason to come back. And one of the things we thought a lot of video-on-demand services were getting wrong was they were maybe too reliant on algorithmic recommendation, too reliant on the tools that might curate a For You rail or a For You section, but it didn't necessarily feel alive. As a user, you didn't necessarily know that there was new content being surfaced. So one of the things we do at Hopster is we have this kind of featured area, this themed area, which gets updated at least every month, probably every 2 weeks. And what we're doing is every time we do that, our creative team picks the theme that they think is going to be important to kids around the world. Might be diversity, might be music making, might be Christmas, might be Diwali, might be something that kind of reflects something that a child is going to see in their world around them. And then creatively, we bring together lots of different types of content, books, games, music, and video, that kind of celebrate or explore or kind of help a kid understand more about that theme. And that's very human curated. That's we do use bits of machine learning to recommend content elsewhere in the app, but that's very human driven. It's very editorial. It's very creatively led. Each one of these looks different, and our design team spend time bringing those together. And it has two effects. One, it helps us surface new content that kids might not otherwise discover, because maybe they won't find the show about music making that would otherwise be the 50th on tile they found in our video section. And also, it makes Hopster feel alive. We can go and build marketing moments off the back of it. We can drive it into our performance marketing creative. We can create press moments and PR moments around it as well. So that was really important for us as a product and kind of editorial and creative decision to make the service feel like it was visibly alive. And then another feature we produced was kind of all about validating parents' choices. And this is getting kind of more tactical. But as a service for preschoolers, we have an interesting dichotomy, which is you have your user, who is a child, and you have your customer, your payer, who is the parent. And let's say as a parent, I've got this product for my child, and I've got it because I think this product is promised to help my kids learn through the stories they love. I download it, I pay for it, I subscribe, I hand the iPad over to my child, great. 3 months down the track, 4 months down the track, how do I know that the thing that I got it for is actually being delivered? How do I know that I've made the right choice? Because as a parent, I'm busy. I'm probably not day-to-day sat there with my child on the iPad using Hopster every day. Well, one of the ways we do that is we tell parents. So we use this email, which we call Sticks to Stats. So every month we send the parent an email which tells them what their child's watched, what they've discovered, why we picked that show. If your child's favorite show is this, why is that on Hopster? What area of learning does it drive? What games did they play? What did they discover through those games? And this is a product feature that we built very specifically because we wanted to make sure that we were engaging both our users and our customers, the parents, at the same time. And we see a pretty strong correlation between parents who engage with those emails and parents who are likely to stay with the service for longer. And then one other kind of final sort of tactic that we used was also just engaging with our community. And there's been loads of really great talks here about sort of some of the quantitative data-driven solutions you can do to understand what's going on in your platform, understand what's going on in your app. We've also found a really powerful tool to be just talking to our most engaged users. So whenever you sign up to Hopster, we're going to send you an email. As part of your email, we're going to invite you to join a private social network we run on Facebook for parents called our Parents Panel. About 5% of Hopster users decide to do that. And that's where we use that as a group to talk about everything from content we're thinking about acquiring, new features we're thinking about building. We take complaints, we take feedback, we take suggestions for further improvement. We want to talk about launching books or a different type of book. Should we do that? And we have a really rich dialogue there. And it's a really great way for us to test new ideas and for us to make sure that we are continuing to move our product in the right direction, kind of with that community of parents, because our parents really do care about what their kids are watching and what they're enjoying. And so this is, in some ways for me, this is like the evidence of success. This is how we know we're getting it right. So every year we do a fairly big survey to all of our users, and one of the questions we do is say, hey, free text field, if you had to tell your someone you didn't know about Hopster anything about like it, just fill in the text field, write down a sentence that you'd use to tell your kids about Hopster. And then so if you take that, you turn it into a word cloud, this is what we get back. You know, entertaining, no adverts, easy to use, educational, and fun. And that's like pretty much where we'd want to be, right? And I think this is, in some ways, like, if you think about that loop with that we sort of set out at the start, you have like progressive parents, parents who care about investing in their kids' childhood, parents who believe in digital products. What would you want that group to say about you if you were really connecting with them? It would look something like this. And this is really kind of the last, if you get to this place, this is where we're like, okay, well, this gives us a really solid foundation to go and build longer engagement with our users and our community. So really, it's from there, from that piece, from here, that set the scene to say we'd been delivering on our mission, and now we can think about how we actually turn that into monetization. So our leading indicators were things like our NPS score. Our leading indicators were how engaged users were on the platform, were things like what parents said about us in that free text question. So where we got to over kind of 2016, 2017 is we had a pretty strong NPS score. We were scoring 78%. We saw sessions per month build steadily, so we were sort of 40% up from 2015 through 2017. And we're like, okay, that's gonna, we should see this coming through in our lifetime value. And what we did is that, and they gave us, we felt like the permission, or gave us the confidence to start doing two things we hadn't done previously. One is we took price up. We said we've now got to a place where we have something really differentiated. Parents clearly care about it. It should now be okay for us to actually charge more for us to take full value for it. So in the USA, we took our price up 40%. We went from $5 a month to $7 a month for our basic product. And we also started doing multi-period subscriptions. So we felt like we built enough of a relationship with our users that rather than doing just a regular monthly, we can actually ask people if they wanted to take out an annual subscription. Great thing about an annual subscription, obviously, is one, we get cash up front, so that's helpful for user acquisition payback. And also, it really brings down our churn numbers because there's obviously fewer opportunities to churn. So we see measured by time, we see about a 50% longer lifetime value for someone on an annual subscription versus a monthly. So we really, by focusing on all the things I talked about, we really, I think, got sort of three benefits. One, we created a stickier product with more engaged users, so people were more likely to stay with us anyway. Secondly, we gave ourselves permission, or we felt like we had permission to charge more for it. And thirdly, we were able to sort of credibly ask people if they wanted to sign up for a year rather than just be monthly. And so you put all those things together, and we've seen a pretty solid, pretty impressive increase in lifetime value. So versus where we were in 2014 versus where we are now in the UK, our home market, our most mature market, if you look at our iTunes segment, so it's kind of like-for-like comparable, we've seen like a 74% increase in like the financial value of our users. So how much money we're going to make from any individual user. So, and what that means is like we can successfully continue to exist in a world of 800-pound gorillas. So despite all that kind of noise, all that competition, all the new stuff that's coming to the App Store since we first launched, we are being able to acquire users and keep them in a way that makes sense for us and delivers a good ROI, and we're continuing to scale our user base at a rate we're pretty happy with. So I guess my final thoughts for anyone, if I were talking to me, kind of going back into the journey we've been on, we made loads of mistakes, and I think we made most of the mistakes you can make in running Hopster. I think the things that I would advise myself to do if I was starting again would be focus on like lifetime value early, and probably earlier than we did. Like getting churn numbers down, driving user retention is actually a harder problem than improving the top of the funnel. It's harder than driving, it's like than driving conversion rates, not least because you don't actually know you're being successful as quickly. Like, it's in the definition of lifetime that you're always kind of guessing about what that lifetime will be. So it takes a while for you to see data, but it's really rewarding once you get it right. And I would say, like, I kind of wish we had spent more time on lifetime value and less time at the top of the funnel than we did. I do think knowing our audience has been like incredibly important. Like, it took us for a long time. We had like big internal debates in the company about like how big that segment of progressive parents was. Was it big enough for us just to be focused on that? Did we need to be broader? Should we be carrying shows that didn't appeal to that audience to broaden our appeal? I think it took us a while to get comfortable that like there was a big enough market out there for what we really passionately felt we should be doing. And I would like to think maybe we should have like got out there earlier, validated that sooner, and had confidence in kind of what we naturally and instinctively wanted to do. And certainly, I guess, hopefully what's kind of come across from what I've talked about today is most of the things I think we did that really moved the needle for us were like fundamental, significant, purposeful features that really supported our mission. Like, there wasn't much that we did that was like a hack. Like, there are some like tactical things we do to like make sure that people know why we're doing what we're doing. But by and large, like, we really try to focus on like having a mission and delivering it. So I'd say like all of those three things were things I would definitely kind of advise myself of if I was starting again. My final thought though would be like we still have like so much more to learn. I think kids' use of these kind of products is still evolving really quickly. You still have whole big segments of the family audience kind of turning off the TV and coming out and discovering digital products for the first time. You have people cutting the cord. You have lots of interesting ideas around where the technology goes, and I think particularly voice recognition, really exciting area for preschool kids. So I would say we are probably, if we are a little bit smarter now than we were when we started, when we were in 2014, we are probably still not smarter than a preschooler. So I'm kind of really excited about what we still have to learn. So that's been our story. Thank you. And I think we have a couple of minutes for questions, if anyone has any. You have a lady at the back there, I think.
It's working. Oh, maybe it is. Okay. You said something about the themes and kind of developing those, like you kind of editorial content and things like that. Did you feel like kids were actually engaging with that more than the just kind of already existing algorithms or things like that?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the way we build our UX, we give that pretty prominent shelf space. So we have kind of this carousel. We have a video section on our carousel. We have a game section on carousel. We have the downloads area on our carousel. We have the themed area. So we kind of make a sort of creative and UX commitment to make that pretty prominent. But certainly, when we get it right, we see that being like the most engaged with area in the product. And I think that kind of tells, and we see people coming back there as well. So I think that kind of tells us that, yeah, we get pretty good engagement from kids around it. Probably some of those themes kind of, we've seen some things resonate really, really well. We've seen kids like really got behind music making, for example. We have probably done things where, didn't quite resonate in quite the same way. So not every single one is as strong, but generally I think that approach works well for us.
Hi, how you doing?
Hey.
I'm assuming that in the kid space, parents' referrals are a big part, telling their new friends who are having babies to check out this app. I'm curious if that is the case, one, and two, how did you, use that to your advantage?
Yeah, it's an interesting question, actually. So there's a two-part answer to that. So partly, yes, like parents are quite social. Parents talk about a lot about like the products they like. One of the things where that was really good is parents like commenting on our own ads and like recommending our Facebook ads to other parents. We can see that virality in real time, and that's cool. One of the problems we actually did have for a long time though was actually like virality in the App Store was quite difficult to enable, right? Like certainly for a long time there wasn't any very easy way to like gift a subscription in the App Store or to use a voucher code to get a cheap subscription in the App Store at like mass scale. And when we started out, we didn't really have that big a developer team, so we were very focused on in-app payment. It's really only since we've built out our web funnel that we've actually been able to provide like a product solution for parents sharing codes. So I would probably have liked to have been able to do that like sooner, but we literally just kind of struggled for developer resource to get it done. Cool. Thank you very much, guys.